Nimbus was a Twi-elect who served as apprentice to Darth Caldoth. He tried to use a forbidden ritual to turn his master's flesh to stone, but Caldoth outsmarted him. The ritual backfired, turning Nimbus himself into stone. His statue still stands on the Sith homeworld of Moraband. Apparently, even in death, he couldn't escape being under his master's thumb. The forbidden ritual Nimbus attempted represented one of the most dangerous applications of Sith alchemy, requiring precise control over molecular structure and life force simultaneously to achieve the desired transformation. His failure demonstrated the risks inherent in attempting to master techniques beyond one's current skill level, a lesson that became cautionary tale among later Sith apprentices. The statue's preservation on Moraband serves multiple purposes, both as warning against overambition and as artistic achievement that captures the moment of Nimbus's realization that his betrayal had failed. Caldoth's decision to leave the statue intact showed characteristic Sith cruelty, creating a permanent monument to his apprentice's hubris while demonstrating his own superiority to future students. Darth Sanguis was one of the first Sith to discover Exegol and conducted horrific experiments seeking immortality. His rituals failed so spectacularly that he vanished from history, suggesting whatever he unleashed was too dangerous even for the Sith. Archaeological evidence suggests Sanguis's experiments involved attempting to merge his consciousness with the fabric of Exegol itself, trying to become one with the world's unique Force properties rather than simply harnessing them for personal power. The spectacular failure of his immortality rituals may have created some of the dangerous phenomena that later made Exegol so hazardous to navigate, with reality itself becoming unstable in areas where he conducted his most ambitious experiment. His disappearance from historical records was likely deliberate, as surviving Sith recognized that knowledge of his techniques was too dangerous to preserve, requiring active suppression rather than simple neglect. The fact that even power-hungry Sith Lord chose to forget his methods suggests consequences of failure were worse than death itself, which, considering these are Sith we're talking about, is really saying something. Darth Shaa was foolish enough to train Darth Maulman. The two had constant philosophical disagreements until Maulman finally killed her with one of her own lightsabers during training. A cloak belonging to Shaa survived for millennia and eventually came into the possession of Lady Kira during the original trilogy era. Shaa's philosophical approach to the dark side emphasized traditional Sith values of personal ambition and direct confrontation, putting her at odds with Maulman's more esoteric interests in architecture and temporal manipulation. Her training methods were apparently intense enough to push Maulman toward his revolutionary discoveries, though she failed to recognize the dangerous direction his studies were taking until it was too late. The surviving cloak became a significant artifact in his own right, imbued with her Force presence and serving as both protection and status symbol for later owners. Kira's acquisition of the cloak during the original trilogy era suggests it retained practical value beyond its historical significance, possibly containing residual Force abilities or serving as focus for dark side techniques. Darth Cyllus mastered a combination of Force lightning and Force drain, allowing her to steal youth from others to preserve her own life. Believing herself unbeatable, she placed herself in carbonite suspension. Treasure hunters would occasionally wake her, though a Sith gauntlet named after her proved so corrupting that the Jedi had to keep it locked away on Jedha. Her technique of combining Force lightning with Force drain created a synergistic effect that was more powerful than either ability alone, allowing her to simultaneously damage enemies while healing herself through their stolen life energy. The carbonite suspension was intended as temporary measure during a particularly dangerous period, but her overconfidence led to centuries of involuntary hibernation as galactic civilization forgot her location, essentially the galaxy's most extreme case of oversleeping. The Cyberus gauntlet represented her attempt to create a permanent artifact containing her unique technique, allowing future wielders to access her power combination without the years of training normally required. The Jedi's decision to imprison the gauntlet on Jedha rather than destroy it suggests recognition of its potential value while acknowledging the impossibility of safely studying or using such a corrupted artifact. Ciceri was the last Sith Lord whose likeness Kylo Ren recognized carved into Exegol's walls. Like the others, he was clearly powerful and influential enough to be remembered in ancient Sith tech. The place placement of Ciceri's carving among the other legendary figures suggests his achievements were considered equal to theirs in terms of lasting impact on Sith philosophy and practice. His inclusion in fundamental Sith educational materials indicates contributions that transcended his own lifetime, possibly involving innovations in training techniques or philosophical frameworks that became standard practice for later generations. Archaeological evidence from various worlds shows artifacts bearing symbols associated with Ciceri, suggesting his influence spread throughout ancient Sith territories, and possibly beyond, into regions controlled by other dark side traditions. The fact that his identity remained prominent in Sith teachings for millennia indicates achievements of extraordinary and lasting significance to the evolution of dark side understanding and application. Darth Scry was responsible for bringing the Sith back from near extinction using a super weapon called the Cauldron. This weapon was apparently far more dangerous than even the Death Star. She also left behind a dark side artifact called the Hand of Scry. Historical records suggest the Sith extinction event that preceded Scry's intervention was caused by internal conflict rather than external enemies, requiring her to rebuild the Order from a handful of survivors scattered across the galaxy. The Cauldron's power exceeded that of traditional super weapons by targeting the Force itself rather than just physical matter, potentially capable of severing entire worlds from the Force permanently or amplifying dark side corruption across multiple star systems simultaneously. Her success in rebuilding the Sith Order established precedents for organizational structure and recruitment that influenced later generations, particularly regarding the balance between secrecy and expansion. The Hand of Scry artifact became legendary for its ability to enhance the wielder's connection to other Sith artifacts and locations, serving as a master key to accessing the accumulated knowledge and power of the ancient Sith Empire. The Stranger is the mysterious Sith from the Acolyte, sometimes called Khamir. Living about a century before Phantom Menace, he mastered forbidden lightsaber forms, including Trikata, which involves deactivating your saber mid-combat to fool opponents, turning psychological warfare into an art form. His mastery of Trikata demonstrated sophisticated understanding of lightsaber combat psychology, exploiting opponents' expectations and muscle memory to create openings that conventional techniques couldn't achieve. The systematic elimination of an entire Jedi team showcased tactical planning abilities that combined Force precognition with detailed knowledge of individual Jedi fighting styles and weaknesses. His willingness to take an apprentice suggests either ignorance of the rule of two or deliberate violation of Bane's doctrine, potentially representing a splinter faction that operated outside traditional Sith hierarchy. The mystery surrounding his place in Sith chronology raises questions about whether multiple Sith lineages existed simultaneously, hidden from each other as well as from the Jedi Order. Of course, this is all besides the fact that the Acolyte already ruins established canon by even calling the Stranger a Sith, when no Sith were supposed to be known during that time period, according to the prequels. Darth Tannis created a Sith superweapon on the planet Malachor that makes the Death Star look primitive. She may still haunt Malachor as a mysterious presence that stalks the ruins. The superweapon's construction required transforming Malachor's entire ecosystem into a massive ritual circle, with the planet's geography serving as components in a weapon system that could affect targets across interstellar distances. Her expertise in techniques blends traditional Sith training with more esoteric forms of Force manipulation, possibly incorporating knowledge from other dark side traditions like the Night Sisters. The weapon's primitive appearance compared to later technology masked sophisticated understanding of Force physics that allowed it to target living beings specifically while leaving technology and infrastructure intact. Her potential survival as a haunting presence indicates mastery of spirit preservation techniques that exceeded even other accomplished Sith Lords, creating a form of immortality that remained tied to the physical location of her greatest achievement. Darth Tenebrous was Darth Plagueis' master and a noted starship designer. He created Darth Maul's Sith Interceptor and was honored with his own legion in Palpatine's Final Order, confirming his canon status. His unique combination of engineering expertise and Sith training produced starship designs that incorporated Force-sensitive materials and construction techniques, creating vessels that responded to their pilots' Force abilities rather than just conventional controls. The Sith Interceptor's distinctive design reflected Tenebrous's philosophy of making technology serve the Force rather than replacing it, with every system optimized to enhance rather than substitute for Force-based piloting skills. His influence on Plagueis extended beyond traditional master-apprentice relationships, with the two collaborating on projects that combined Tenebrous's engineering knowledge with Plagueis's biological research to create unprecedented hybrid technologies. The Tenebrous Legion's specialization in starfighter combat reflected his legacy of combining technological innovation with Force-enhanced warfare, proving that his contributions to Sith capability extended far beyond individual training and into institutional development. Count Dooku, christened Darth Tyranus, was another of the Lost 20. His pride and arrogance made him easy prey for Palpatine, who used him to start the Clone Wars. Dooku believed he was Palpatine's true apprentice, but he was just a pawn to be discarded once Palpatine got his hands on Anakin Skywalker, proving that even Sith Lords can fall victim to the classic "it's not you, it's me" breakup. His aristocratic background and political connections made him uniquely valuable for Palpatine's plan to manipulate the Republic's government from within, providing legitimacy and respectability that a traditional Sith Lord could never achieve. Dooku's genuine disillusionment with the Jedi Order's perceived failures made his fall more convincing to outside observers, allowing him to recruit allies who believed they were supporting necessary reform rather than Sith conquest. His mastery of Form 2 lightsaber combat, specifically designed for dueling other Force users, made him particularly effective against Jedi opponents who had grown accustomed to fighting non-Force sensitive enemies. The irony of his position was that his very qualifications for serving Palpatine's plan also made him unsuitable as a long-term Sith apprentice, since his political usefulness would become liability once the Empire was established. Darth Vitiate once ruled an ancient Sith empire similar to Palpatine's. His likeness appears among Palpatine's Sith relics, but his canon backstory remains completely mysterious. Archaeological evidence suggests Vitiate's empire predated the Republic by millennia, representing an alternative model of galactic governance based entirely on dark side principles, rather than the political manipulation that characterized later Sith efforts. His inclusion among Palpatine's collected artifacts indicates recognition as a significant predecessor whose achievements were worthy of study and emulation by later Sith generations. The mystery surrounding his canon status may be deliberate, as his methods and philosophy could have influenced Palpatine's approach to empire building in ways that haven't yet been fully revealed. Historical analysis suggests that Vitiate's empire fell due to internal contradictions inherent in dark side governance, providing cautionary lessons that later Sith leaders incorporated into their own strategies for maintaining power over extended periods. Lockbit was carved into Exegol's walls and recognized by Kylo Ren, suggesting incredible power. The Acolytes of the Beyond honored him in their prayers, with Darth Vader's servant Vane giving thanks to Lockbit's memory, which is quite the endorsement when you consider standards for who deserves gratitude. Cult worship, extending across millennia, indicates that Lockbit's teachings or achievements had profound impact on dark side practitioners throughout history. His inclusion in the prayers of diverse dark side groups suggests universal respect among Sith followers, regardless of their specific traditions or time periods. Archaeological evidence from various worlds shows shrines dedicated to Lockfet, indicating his influence spread far beyond traditional Sith territories. The reverence shown by Vader's own servants demonstrates that even Imperial-era darkside users acknowledged Lockfet's contributions to their understanding of the Force's malevolent aspects, making him a cornerstone figure in Sith spiritual development. Darth Ren was significant enough that Qui-Gon Jinn studied prophecies about his return. If those prophecies were accurate, then Ren was responsible for leading the Sith to near victory after they'd been believed wiped out by the Jedi. The prophecies surrounding Ren's return were apparently detailed enough to warrant serious study by one of the Order's most intuitive masters, suggesting they contained specific signs' importance rather than vague mystical warnings. Historical records indicate that Ren's original campaign brought the Sith closer to total victory than any previous attempt, requiring unprecedented cooperation between multiple Jedi generations to finally defeat him. His strategic innovations apparently included techniques for corrupting Jedi from within their own ranks, turning the Order's strength against itself in ways that later influenced Palpatine's approach to destroying the Jedi. The fact that prophecies predicted his return rather than simply his rise suggests mastery of temporal force techniques that allowed him to influence events across multiple timelines simultaneously. These forgotten Sith Lords represent more than just historical curiosities. They're testament to the dark side's enduring influence across millennia. Their stories remind us that behind every familiar villain like Vader or Palpatine lies a vast tapestry of dark side knowledge, failed experiments, and hard-won wisdom. While the galaxy may have moved on from these ancient terrors, their shadows continue to shape the Force itself, proving that in the Star Wars universe, the past is never truly dead. It's just waiting for someone foolish enough to try and resurrect it. If you didn't see your favorite Sith Lord on this list, be sure to check out parts 1 and 2 of this series shown on screen.